The Advanced Transportation team, with the leadership of our statewide director, Janet Malig, has spent some time talking to the supply chain industry to identify opportunities to expand California community college programs. We also wanted to identify recognized industry certifications that employers value. Based on our findings, we decided to partner with Broward College to offer this free training and certification program from Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, also known as CSCMP. Broward College offers curriculum that is easy to integrate into existing programs, but also the development of new programs. This partnership will allow us to train and certify our community college faculty, who can then train and prepare our students for the certification exams. Before we get started, I'd like to go over the session rules. Please put any questions in the chat box. This will allow us to continue our presentation, and if we can quickly respond to the question, we will, or we can respond at the end of the presentation. And now I'd like to introduce Leslie Backus from Broward College.
Thank you, Jaime, and it is my distinct pleasure to be working with you and with Janet to put this program together. I know how hard you all have worked, and it's going to be great. So we're all very, very excited from Broward College and from CSCMP as well. So the first thing I'd like to do is introduce what I'm calling the Florida team. Here at Broward College, we have with us today the Associate Dean for Supply Chain Management Programs at Broward College, Dr. Preston Steele. I don't know if you can wave, Preston. I haven't seen you, and I can't see everyone at once.
I'll say hello.
And we also have, hi Preston, thank you for joining us. And we also have Dr. Tuli Badillo. You'll be hearing from her in a little bit. She's an associate professor in the supply chain management programs here at Broward College. And she has a wealth of experience, not only in supply chain itself, but also as an educator and specifically with this program. And also Joelle Hutchings, who is the manager of the program. She and I work very closely together, and this day would not happen without Joelle for sure. So she's here muting you and unmuting you. So be nice to Joelle if you want to speak.
Hi, everyone.
And she's also admitting everybody into the rooms. So we're so happy again to be with you today. And we're looking forward to the opportunity that your ATL team has put together for faculty throughout California, for all of the colleges, really. This has been reached out. So we're very, very excited about that. I wanted to give you just a little bit of background on how we came to be, and I'll start the presentation with that, just a little overview of what originally was the LINKS program and now is SCPro Fundamentals. So we'll talk about the background and just an overview, and then an actual introduction to the program itself, so you can learn about how it works, what a student will experience, and what goes on when someone decides to earn these certifications. Then we'll hear, as I said, from Dr. Badillo. She has some slides and some screenshots for you, and she's looking at things from the perspective of an instructor. So for those of you who are instructors and plan to be working with this program, you'll get to see a little bit, feel a little bit about the program itself. Then we'll talk some specifics about the California faculty program. We call this a little bit of train the trainer. And there'll be plenty of time, we hope, for questions and comments at the end, and then we'll talk about our next steps afterwards. And like Jaime said in the beginning, we really welcome any questions and comments. And the easiest way when we have some words prepared is to do it in the chat if that works. But if we see a question that's really timely and that needs to be addressed right away, we're happy to do that as well. So like I said, we started out with a program called LINKS. That was what we used as our acronym when we applied to the US Department of Labor for a $24.5 million grant. This was if anybody had heard of the TACT grants in the 2013, I think, to 2018 timeframe. And nobody was more surprised, I think, than Broward College when we were awarded the grant. It wasn't just for Broward, though. Obviously, we were the lead institution, but it was a consortium of 9 colleges and 3 universities all over the country. And we all worked together on our project objectives were to create primarily entry-level supply chain management certifications. We always say entry to mid-level because we've found along the way that entry level is really our target for our population, but there are some mid-level employees in supply chain who have never had formal training. And so the certifications were very welcome to them. As I mentioned, we partnered with colleges, the 9 colleges in our consortium and 3 universities. We love partnerships, so we had a lot of them, and those were the major ones with the National Urban League. We had an affiliate in each city or each college area for each of our colleges. So the college team worked very close with the Urban League affiliate to bring people into the program and have them earn these certifications. And so we also partnered with CSCMP because we wanted it to be an industry recognized certification. And the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, being a leading professional industry recognized organization, was the perfect partner for this effort to award the credential so that students are receiving something that can be recognized and taken anywhere they go in the country or the world. So our grant was for 4 years, and these, 5 bullets here make it sound like it was really easy, and we're probably going to try to convince you that it was, but it was not. It took many years. It took a couple of years actually just to create the content for the certifications. There wasn't anything comparable. We don't think there really is still today. And we had to start from scratch. So if you've ever started writing something from scratch, you know what I'm talking about. It was challenging along the way, but we formed some really good relationships and some partnerships. And in the end, the program turned out to be successful beyond our dreams. We had committed to 3,000 certifications earned over the course of our program, and we were astounded that we had over 10,000 by the time we were done. So our colleges and our Urban League affiliates really stepped up to the plate and became very serious about recruiting employees and unemployed folks into the program. So after the grant funding stopped, when that program concluded, we were required to have a sustainability program, and we at Broward were actually very happy to start on our sustainability program. And that's really where we are today. And like I mentioned, that's when it turned into the SCPro Fundamentals program with 8 certification tracks. And one of the hallmarks of this program is that these 8 tracks, or courses, sometimes they're called, sometimes people call them modules even. We've learned that the nomenclature varies all the time, but they're really called certification tracks because we always want to make sure everybody knows that, yes, there's coursework involved, but the goal is to earn a certification from CSCMP so that students will have that in their portfolio, their resume. So these are the 8 tracks, and we'll talk a little bit more about the specific tracks a little bit later, but I just wanted you to see the names, the official names of what each of the tracks are. For SCPro Fundamentals, following the grant, we had a couple of goals. Number one, we really wanted to have short-term credentials for underemployed or unemployed people. And as kind of a follow-on to that, to encourage students to attend college who may have never thought that that was for them in the past. But certainly as a career goal, having some certifications under their belt, having some college credits would be a much better start for someone, or addition to someone's career path. When it was designed, flexibility was one of the most important things. We wanted to make sure that with those 8 tracks, a student or a participant could take whatever certifications or whichever pathway worked for them. So if they're more in the transportation area, they could take the certification in transportation. They could also earn warehousing operations. The program has complete flexibility to take one or any combination up to all 8 of the certification tracks. The delivery format also needed to be completely flexible because we have everything from an independent, non-affiliated student, meaning not affiliated with any school, all the way up through the certifications being embedded in academic programs, which we'll talk about that too. So, and everything in between. And we always want to share if anyone has any questions about delivery format and about what works best and how other organizations are delivering the content. We also wanted everybody to know what's included with the program, and it needed to be complete. And so we think that it is because it starts out with an online body of content that takes the participant from absolutely no knowledge of supply chain management all the way through to being able to sit for the certification exam. That's how the coursework was developed, and the exam was developed to completely align with the content. So yes, everything is online, but it also adapts very well to a course, whether in person or online, that has a facilitator or an instructor, and all the way up to being included in an academic class as well. With the online content comes a PDF that can be printed out because we recognize not everyone learns in the best way with online content. So we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to also learn from paper or to have something to take with them when they're not available, when the internet isn't available. The online content and the PDF are exactly the same with only one exception. In other words, they have all of the same content, the text, they have graphics. The practice questions that are in the online version are also included in the PDF, so students can do quizzes to help enhance their knowledge. The only thing that's not included in the PDF is the interactives that you'll see in a little bit. These interactives are included in each section of each track, and it's a little more trendy or a little more modern now to have things that are online, kind of like gaming, but help the student increase their knowledge and make it stick, in other words. So another really important part of the program was we recognized that after the grant concluded, when we would roll this out to new colleges, new organizations, we really wanted it to be affordable. And we believe that it is, even to independent students or to organizations such as employers who want to do it for onboarding or for professional development, even in a corporate environment. But our main target audience has always been our colleges and some universities. So we obtained ISBNs for each certification track, and we have them in the bookstores of many colleges. The reason for that is that it makes it easy for the student to purchase the materials, and it's also available if they want to use their financial aid. So that has proved to be very popular in the academic side, where students have the ability to go to the bookstore and get the materials, use their, however it's done in the school, use their student ID and get their materials and have it be a part of their financial aid. Along the way, the program was also approved for veterans to be reimbursed through their educational benefits. And that's different, of course, for every veteran, but certainly something worth relating if students come to the program that have those benefits. So the certification exam has some requirements also. Since it's a CSCMP exam, it's not a Broward College exam, they require that the exam be proctored. And it's very common for it to be proctored by either a faculty member or a staff member in a class when we can have in-person classes again, or in a testing center in colleges that have that facility. And it can also be proctored online using ProctorU. Perhaps many of you are familiar, perhaps use ProctorU now. It certainly has become more popular over the last 8 months, and they get very busy. But we've had a mixture of all of the different proctoring formats along the way. So the exam also, we wanted it to be very fair, to be a good assessment of the work and the knowledge that the student had gained during the program. So all of the questions are the same format. They are multiple choice questions with 4 possibilities and 1 correct answer. So it's a very straightforward format. And it happens to be the same format of the practice quizzes, but the certification exam questions are not the practice quizzes. We'll remind faculty of that so they can share that with their students as time goes on. There are 90 minutes to take the exam, and we have found that that's very adequate, that if a participant has studied the material, that unless there's something else, some other kind of issue, that 90 minutes is plenty of time to take the exam. It's got 40 questions. Students require a score of 70% or 28 out of the 40. And there's a retake policy that allows up to 2 retakes. And we can get into the details of how the retakes work and how all that happens at a later time. We have documents prepared that make it easy for faculty to learn about how the retakes work, how the exam gets set up, and what the proctoring guidelines are, and all of those kinds of things. And looking forward then, for each certification, the student will receive a PDF certificate signed by the CEO of CSCMP. Again, it's a CSCMP certificate. And those who earn all 8 certifications will receive a comprehensive certificate acknowledging the achievement of going through all of the 8 tracks. And that is a certificate that is mailed to them. It has a ribbon and a seal on it. And I know I'm going through a little quickly, but we will get back to questions about any of the things that we've gone over so far. But now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Tuli Badillo. I've introduced her already, and we're so glad she's here with us. And she can tell you about the project or the program from her perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leslie. And thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. By the way, I love California. I wish I was there instead of here. We do have an ocean, but we don't have any mountains. And I love the ocean and the mountains, but it is what it is. Anyway, I thank you for the opportunity. And I'm going to be answering a couple of questions today. I'm going to be answering why was I invited? How did I do what I did, right, in regards to the SCPro, and what is the outcome? So those are the sort of the 3 questions that I'll be addressing today. So Leslie, if you would go to the next slide.
Sorry.
No worries.
I delay.
Okay, so I am a professor. I am the program manager for the supply chain management program. I come from industry. I said I love California because I used to visit United Airlines. And those of you who are a little bit older might remember McDonnell Douglas, which was bought by Boeing. So I used to go there a lot, and that's why I say I love it. In any event, I have here on this slide, the train matches the degree. And I think that's one of the fantastic things about the program. Next slide, please. So I was asked to ask, next slide, Leslie. So I was asked to share my experience from a previous one, from the instructor's lens, the previous slide, Leslie.
Sorry.
No worries. So
Did I miss another one?
Yeah, that's not a problem. All right, so what was my experience? So I have to tell you that in the beginning, I might have been a little bit apprehensive because, you know, with anything new, you wonder, okay, how am I going to get this done? We're used to doing something and we get, you know, we get used to teaching a certain way, to teaching a certain concepts or changing them accordingly. But this was something relatively new. And so in the beginning, I was, because of the unknown, I was just a little bit apprehensive about that. But once I began to incorporate the content into my learning, my LMS, we use Desire to Learn, then I realized how really easy and seamless it was. And I'll tell you the reason why. It's because in Desire to Learn, all we have to do is point the student to the SCPro Fundamentals website. So I really didn't have to do a lot of changes in my courses. All really I had to do was send a student, once they had to do a practice quiz or read a certain content, all I had to do was point them to the right learning block in the certification track, which is would be a different website. So our students would be working simultaneously in two websites, our Desire to Learn LMS and the SCPro Fundamentals. So for that reason, it was seamless. Now, I also saw the changes in my core shell were very minimal, right? So then comes the easy part. I found out that actually the relationship between the two was extremely flexible, because it allowed me for me to have my course to be as robust as I wanted it, right? So the content is great, but my students come from industry, so I want my own shell to be way more robust. So I have my hold on a second, let me switch this up here so I can read. So I have my discussions, I have interactive case-based assignments. I can even have an additional midterm if I want to. I can use the SCPro Fundamentals as a final exam, or I also sometimes have a final exam and the SCPro Fundamentals exam. And then the grading scale is kind of balance between all of the different grading assignments, discussions, midterms, and finals. So because of that flexibility, I truly actually began to enjoy having the additional content. And the reason why I love that is because my LMS is not as interactive as the actually SCPro Fundamentals material. The way that the SCPro was developed is extremely gaming. It infused a lot of gaming activities. So the students are very interactive. The assessments are aligned to the cognitive levels of their learning outcomes. And so what I want to do now is I want to share with you what is some of the screenshots of some of the elements of the SCPro Fundamentals. And if you could go to the next, exactly. So as you can see, some of the activities are interactive, and if the student doesn't put the right content in the right location, they have the opportunity to redo it as often as they want to. And so in terms of the ability to learn the concept, and because it's more interactive, I noticed that the students were really learning more, and they were more engaged in the process with my learning environment and the SCPro learning environment. So if you, so in this activity, all they have to do is, this is a maintenance and manufacturing operation. So all they have to do is just drag the right answer into the right place and check the activity. It tells you if it's right or wrong, and it gives you the opportunity to start over again. So that gaming it makes the student just be more engaged. Next slide, please, Leslie. So in this activity, because it's a safety, this one is about safety, warehouse safety, they get to choose what are the items or the areas of concern. And then once they choose the right one, once they click on it, they have a chance to choose what is the safety issue. And if they click the correct answer, then it tells them that is right, or it tells them that is wrong, and it gives them the opportunity to try it again. So like I said, it's extremely interactive, lots of gaming. And this is what I love about it, because it enhances my learning management system. Leslie, if you could go to the next slide. All right, this one, in this case, you basically read a safety or security issue, and then it asks you a question about what is it that you read. Again, very interactive. It's a formative, so you read the material, it is followed by a formative practice quiz. There is no effect on your grade, that there is no It's not graded, so that pressure to do well is not there. So they, in my opinion, they really take the opportunity to learn the material well and see if they learn the material or not with this practice quizzes. Next slide. Okay, so basically this is how I did it. So how I did it was I took my learning management system, I kept what I wanted to keep. I made my program and my class as robust as I wanted it. And then when the time came to cover material that was also in these SCPro fundamentals, I would simply put a prompt that led the student to say, okay, go to this learning block in the SCPro certification exam. That was all it took. So then I became, that apprehension basically went away in a very short period of time, because it just did not take me a long time. Within 1 hour or so, I was just able to implement the SCPro certification in my learning management system. So that's how basically I did it. So now, what is the outcome of all of this? We, education is still the best way for students to rise economically. And when we teach with the SCPro fundamentals, what is the outcome? What is it that we want out of it? And going through it, what I saw was that the students were getting jobs faster, earlier in their educational journey. So for example, we have students that had no experience whatsoever. They took the transportation track, or they took the supply chain management track, which are the first two that they take at Broward College, and they put their certificates in that LinkedIn account. And a lot of our students were beginning to get jobs, even though they had not graduated yet. And really, that is, I believe, that is our purpose, right? That's what we're there for. Are the students getting the jobs? Because that's what they go to school for, to have that opportunity at a good career. So the second thing that happened that was very positive is we have a lot of students that already worked in warehouses, already were directors somewhere, and they needed to move up in their corporate ladder. And so they started to take our courses. And as soon as they began to get the certifications, they began to move up the ladder as well. So I'll give you an example, one story of a student that came into a Fortune 500 company. She was a temp, right? But she started going to Broward College for the supply chain management program, the bachelor's. They first do the associates, and we do have a bachelor's program. As she progressed, she was kept from a temp to a full-time employee. Then when she graduated, she submitted for a mid-management level position. And when she went to the interview, the first thing they said was, "Oh, you're the one with the certificates. Why am I telling you this story? When your education and everything else is equal, it is those certificates that differentiate you. And it's that differentiating factor that gives the student the better opportunity to succeed and get the better jobs, and therefore get a better opportunity at a better career." Now, the other thing that I did not cover was that we use, going back to the previous slide, I missed that part. One of the things that we did for affordability purposes was we stopped using textbooks. And so instead of using textbooks, we used the SCPro fundamentals, which is considered an OER. And then we supplemented the courses with other OERs so that the students would have a more textbook affordability. So we were very focused on that. That's something that I missed that's extremely important. And I'm glad that I made that point now instead of earlier, for you to keep in mind that textbook affordability and educational affordability is extremely important. And the fact that we went away from textbooks to complete OER was really fundamental to the success of our program as well. Leslie mentioned modules and units. So the learning blocks are equal to our Department of Education as the units or the modules. So there isn't a total alignment of the SCPro fundamentals material to our Department of Education learning outcomes. So there is a seamless alignment there between the two, which also is what made it different. And in the beginning, that's where I was a little bit concerned as well. How does the SCPro fundamentals material align with the Department of Education learning outcomes? And they're in total alignment. So that also made it extremely easy. And I know I'm jumping from thing to thing, but in any event, I think that's basically it. So the takeaways. The final thing that I want you to take away from this is jobs. The students have a better opportunity at getting jobs faster and before they finish their AS program or even their bachelor's programs, because a lot of our students actually stay and transition over to our bachelor's program, and about 70% of our students transition to our bachelor's program. And I would say that at least 60% of them go on to a master's program. That's how successful they are. And it's just been a wonderful experience. We have so many students that are grateful for this program because of the opportunity it afforded them. And so I would, if you have any questions, I would love to answer them, or at the end, I am here to be of service to you. You tell me how I can be of assistance or of service to you all.
Thank you, Tuli. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I've been told that we do have quite a few questions in the chat box. So we have just a little bit more to go to talk about the actual program with California College's faculty. So we'll just kind of quickly go through that, because I think we've explained about the program so far, so we just need a little bit more. But thank you, that was excellent. It's always good to hear from somebody who has actually gone through it and has that experience. So we really appreciate it. So I'm gonna just go on now to the program that is proposed for California faculty. The opportunity is, I think everyone knows, is to actually earn the certifications as a faculty member. So in the same sense that students don't have to have prior knowledge or working experience with supply chain management or in supply chain management, a faculty member can be in the same spot and go through and earn the certifications. So we have two goals for that. First of all, for the colleges, it enhances the programs, kind of as Tuli was saying, that a program that includes industry certifications has a better chance of being attractive to prospective students. That kind of goes pretty naturally. And then also for faculty development, I think it's timely. It's a really good time for some faculty to have the opportunity to enhance their portfolio, the number of courses or the types of courses that they would be qualified to teach. And just for general all-around development, we thought that this would be a really good opportunity. So the format is pretty much the same as what we've described before, with independent study on the participants' part and facilitation with some experienced instructors like Dr. Badillo to provide a couple of things. In planned workshops that we have, I'll be doing some exam prep. So in the same sense that we recommend that instructors provide some exam review or review just prior to an exam, we're recommending that for faculty coming through the program as well. Just in general senses, it always helps before you take an exam to go through a preparation review and get ready for that exam. But the other thing in those instructor-led workshops are going to be best practices for teaching this program specifically. So we would like to hear all of the tips, the best practices, the lessons learned from teaching in these 8 certification tracks. You know, when you're teaching transportation, is there something that students just really are challenged with? Or is there something that you found that is really helpful if you talk about a specific discussion in a certain topic? So we'll go over all of those things to make this a better experience for faculty going through. We have a tentative schedule, and the main part of the schedule we're planning to launch in January after everyone is back, probably around mid-January, I think. And then the second part of the schedule is that we realize that we know what happens. We have a little bit of experience in the academic world, and so we know what happens in December. We know what happens in early December, and then we know what happens about mid-December. And some people in mid-December are off traveling or doing something else during their break and just don't have an extra moment. But some people would be at home and may want to get started on this. So we're going to make that opportunity available. It'll be completely independent study, but we will set up the coursework, we will set up everyone's login, and they'll be able to start. So for whoever would like to get started right away, that's certainly a possibility. And then we'll go back to the regular schedule in January. The certification tracks, the way this program will work, of course, there are still the same 8 certification tracks. The program will be that everyone will start with supply chain management principles and followed by demand planning. Those are 2 really kind of introductory and yet very important tracks to get started in the end-to-end supply chain. But then the other 6 tracks will be available as electives. And we can get into the details of how those electives will work when we get into more details about the program. So then there'll be the certification exam, of course. And our anticipation is that most faculty members will need to use the online proctoring service, ProctorU, and we'll help with getting that all set up in case there probably are faculty members who haven't used it as a student. So we'll be helping get all that set up. The question format is the same, basically the same exam, 4 questions, 40 questions, all multiple choice, 4 possibilities, 1 correct answer. The time is the same, 90 minutes. The score to become an educator who is certified is passing of 85%. So that's 34 out of 40, still very manageable, very doable. And then the same situation with retakes. There are up to 2 retakes, and we'll get into the policies surrounding the retakes when we need to. I hope we don't need to. We always anticipate that we won't, but we know that life happens and things happen. And so we're really glad that CSCMP does allow the retakes that they do so people can get through. And that concludes the prepared things that we have. And now we want to make sure that this session reflects what our attendees are curious about. So we can start with the chat if we have questions that we know of. I have to confess, I haven't been looking at the chat. So
Leslie, do you want me to read off the questions and
that would be awesome.
okay, and I'll just address them to who I think that they should go to. I'll go ahead and do that.
Sounds great.
Okay. Hold on, let me just scroll down. We had a bunch of people signing in. Just give me one moment, everyone.
Leslie, just to start off, Aaron Thomas from Coastline College asked, when was the grant awarded?
The grant was awarded in late 2013. So we really began working on it in 2014.
Thanks, Jaime.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question about veterans. There's some confusion around that. Do you mean a program separate from the academic program? They specifically have certificates and degrees approved by veterans. So is this not meant to be part of those programs?
I would say it's probably not a part of those programs because the package that was approved by the Veterans Administration is the certification program. So in an academic environment, that package is basically the book because the students get the materials and the exam in a bundle from the bookstore. So that's what has been approved. So if the other existing veterans programs cover materials for a class or a set of classes or something, then it would already be approved through that program. So there could be 2 places where the participants would be able to get reimbursement. I'm not saying they would get reimbursement from both places, but there could be two pathways to that reimbursement.
Right.
But we can talk with you about the details of it. Our experience with it has been very simple. We give a form to the veterans who say, I have benefits, and they submit it through their resource officer. So it has worked pretty well. But if we need to merge it with some other programs, we'll definitely work on that as it comes.
Leslie,
Totally.
can I,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
can I add something to that? I do want to say a lot of our students are veterans, but they're doing the associates program, but they are covered by the veterans financial aid.
Right. So if they have that financial aid and it covers their materials, then they don't need to submit it through us. They're already getting that covered by the VA. But if they don't have that, then, or if they're in a non-academic program, they can still get reimbursed for the certification.
The next question is, does this instruction include supply chain for apparel?
I can respond to that.
Okay, thanks, Julie. I'm not sure what the question
So the
is.
way, because supply chain management applies to basically every industry, the way we set up, for example, when I set up, let's say, supply chain management, I may have an assignment that allows the student to choose an industry and discuss in a discussion or an assignment. And given that student that flexibility to either look into an industry that they're interested in, or an industry that they're already in, and they would like to enhance their research in it, then that gives that all students an opportunity to choose any industry. But then that would be up to you how, and this is where I say the flexibility, because in your in your learning management system, you can make it as robust, and you can gear it to any, let's say your program is more focused in that. You can gear your discussions, your assignments towards that. And that's where the flexibility comes in. I have one of the classes, which I love, because it allows the student to choose. And when a student is writing about what they love, they learn more. And so that's my experience and I hope that answers your question.
Not really. It has to be related to, we're in the fashion department, so it has to be related to apparel, because they just don't want, you had mentioned warehouse and transportation, but it has to kind of really go into, an apparel manufacturing.
Right. So then, so the SCPro fundamentals is general supply chain management, right? The fundamental part of supply chain management, which is, of course, all of the elements. But then in your learning management system, that's where you link to it and you apply those concepts to all the examples that have to do with the fashion industry. And that would happen in your LMS.
Oh, I would have to put it all together.
Right, exactly. You would have to gear your learning management system, your course, right? If that's what you teach, your course. And then the certification program, the SCPro, would be supplemental.
Oh, okay.
Teaching you the concepts, the basic concepts of how supply chain management work, whether they work for the retail industry. Transportation sometimes is different, because some of them is the cold chain, but transportation is transportation, which is part of supply chain management. Demand planning is demand planning, whether it's the food industry, healthcare, or fashion. The supplier relationship management is can be applied as well. So all the concepts apply. You link it to what your course is geared to. So it's an extremely flexible and easy to support your industry in terms of supply chain management. I hope I answered that question now.
Great, thanks, Julie.
Is it better? Did it get it now?
Yeah, so there would be a lot more things information and instruction that I'd have to research and put in, because I don't know about too much about supply chain.
Right, but I'm going to tell you and I'm hoping that I'm not barging into, but the fashion industry supply chain is fundamental. It's so important. If you take a look at what is that that Spanish Zara, Zara's success is fully depending on the correct supply chain.
Thanks, Tuli.
Thank you.
The next question I think could come to both Jaime and Leslie, depending on whether it's for instructors or students. I'm not sure what it's aimed at. Is there a cost for each certification exam and for the retakes?
Yes, and the answer is yes to both.
Okay.
Each individual track has its own certification, and the cost for the content and the exam, like I mentioned before, is always bundled together. And then there is a cost for the first retake if that's needed, and also for the second retake.
And
Thanks.
just to follow up on that question, for this program that we're launching for California community college faculty, there is no cost to the faculty to go through the training and for the certification. That's been paid through from my grant from the Chancellor's office. So for the purpose of training the trainer, faculty will have no cost associated unless there's a retake fee in the event that they don't pass the first time around. But yeah, this program is meant for faculty and there's no cost to faculty to participate.
Awesome.
Perfect, thank you. Question about ADA. As you may know, we're now required to have all external materials and online materials cleared as ADA accessible. Have the materials and exams been certified as ADA compatible by a third party? How much of this is online?
Good question. I will have to check with our instructional designer. I know that there are the ADA elements that you frequently see with text over images and things. So my assumption is that it is, but I will take a note on that and get back with you about the certification.
Can we use Canvas as an LMS for this course?
Just as Tuli was describing, you can use Canvas or whatever the LMS is for your course. And as you do with other third party, whether it's the publisher of the textbook or other websites that you point the students to, you would direct them to this content that is web-based. It's online for them, but it's not going to be inside Canvas. That would be very impractical because as we update or change anything, the material that would be included inside Canvas would never get updated. So we made that decision very early on to just make it kind of universal and available no matter what the LMS is that the school has.
A couple of questions for Tuli. How many certificates are included in each of your courses? And how many courses do you have that correspond along with the fundamentals?
So we have incorporated all of the tracks. We're developing the last track right now, demand management. So all of our classes, each class is a certification. So transportation, introduction to transportation has the transportation track. Supply chain management, introduction has its own track. Warehousing and inventory management has its own track. Procurement, introduction to procurement. So each track has a separate course, and when they graduate with the associate's degree, they will have earned all the 8 certification tracks independently. Each course is a track.
Okay, and one more question to Tuli. Someone wasn't sure if they understood. Are you teaching a developed curriculum, or are you teaching the CSCMP SCPro curriculum in the classroom?
No, we are teaching the Department of Education curriculum. And it so happens that the SCPro fundamentals material is totally compatible and aligns with the Department of Education learning outcomes. So all of our courses are developed according to Department of Education guidelines.
I just want to add one thing to that, because technically it's not CSCMP's curriculum. I think it's an important distinction. It's CSCMP's certification and credential, but the curriculum was developed by an academic team consisting of 9 colleges, 9 community colleges around the country, with the guidance of 3 universities, Georgia Tech, Northwestern, and Rutgers University, all of which have advanced master's and PhD programs in supply chain management. So CSCMP served as a subject matter expert and another guide for that development, but it was done by an academic team because it needed to be aligned with the needs of entry level and community college students. So while it's available in the corporate world and other places, that was our main target population.
And that's the reason why it's so easy to implement.
Is the train the trainer certification for instructors different from the 8 certifications? Is there a separate certification for instructors of any kind to be able to monitor the certification exams?
No, there's not. And there is a pathway that CSCMP has for advanced certifications. So if an instructor would want to have further knowledge and credentials, they could advance from this program to what is called SCPro Level 1. And that program requires a bachelor's degree, and it's a very comprehensive one exam. It's one of those ones that encompasses the entire end-to-end supply chain in the program and the exam. So this program is the 8 fundamentals certifications.
Which of the certificates are at the associate's level and which are at the bachelor's level?
I think Thule covered that at Broward College, and certainly this is not the only college or university that offers this program, but at Broward College, the certifications are embedded in the academic courses in the associate's level. So by the time they get to the upper division in the bachelor's program, they're taking more advanced courses than this. But there are universities that we work with that are 4-year universities that offer these certifications in some of their courses as well. I still think probably in the first 2 years though. Oh.
This may be a question for Jaime, but I'll just put it out there. How much time does the instructor program take? If people aren't ready to begin in January, can it be self-paced later? We would need to recruit for this, which might take time.
That's a Leslie question, but just to kind of give a timeline, the performance period for my grant ends June 30th. There's a potential to add maybe a 1 or 2 month extension to that. But Leslie, you can answer the question.
Yeah, we think that for faculty members that this would be approximately 25 hours of review and study to get ready to take the exam. For students, we usually say 30 hours, especially if students don't have any work experience or experience in the supply chain industry. But we believe that a motivated instructor could do this in 25 hours at the most. And so
Leslie, just to be really clear, and that's 25 hours just to be prepared to take the supply chain principles exam?
Yeah, it's per track. Each track is about the same length. So again, it's not a firm number, but it's about that is what we would expect.
Where can we find the OER materials that Thule mentioned?
The program that was developed during the grant is available on the Skills Commons site. Any federal grant has to produce their materials and put them there. That was when we finished the grant. They're a little bit different now, but not in a major way.
My college does not currently have a program. Can we still recommend faculty for this training and certification? If so, what discipline is recommended? Business?
Yeah, I can take on that, and Leslie, you can brush up on it. So this is intended to enhance existing programs, whether it's business, manufacturing, transportation, any program of that sort that you may have in your college. Supply chain is so diverse that really you can embed it into any program you'd like. But it's also intended for those college programs who are looking to develop a new program. So this is actually a great place to start, is to have your faculty certified, and then maybe start off with embedding some of the curriculum into an existing business course. And if you have success, then you can branch off and create a supply chain or a logistics program that stands on itself.
I'd like to add a comment to that. So in this pandemic situation, we've seen a lot of programs see reduced number of students. But in supply chain management, we've actually seen a growth, because if you hear the TV, the news, everybody talks about the importance of the supply chain management and the disruptions that happen with the protective equipment. And so because the word has become so prevalent in media, then the fact that your program is called supply chain management really draws a lot of attention to students that want to enter into a career that will give them an opportunity for growth in future pathways in future careers. So we have seen growth in our program, even now with the pandemic. I hope that helps.
Which entity confers the certificate?
That's the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, or CSCMP. So at Broward College, we do the administration of this entire program, but always that credential comes from the professional association that is recognized around the country and definitely around the world. They have a very strong international presence as well. And yes, California community colleges are on Canvas. It doesn't really matter what your LMS is. This isn't the time to kind of get into details about LMSs, but the only way I can think of to describe it is that, again, you have your LMS, that's where your core part of your course, your syllabus is. And when you want the students to get extra material, they go to another website. And if you think of it that way, I mean, this is a lot of very rich content, but it's still using a link to go to a website that's external.
What are the costs for students and for their retake fees? Are there grants to pay for that now?
I'll answer the last one first because I don't really know about grant availability in California. I know that in some of the other states, there is very serious grant money that is available for students, especially in transportation, distribution, logistics. The cost for students independently is $150 per track. And that includes all of the material that I talked about, online, PDF, practice questions, and all of that, and the certification exam. That's the example of the bundle that I was speaking about, that the content and the exam are together. They're never separated. It always sounds attractive in the beginning when people say, well, I just want to do the content. But that's why I stressed in the beginning, this is a certification program. And the certification is what's valuable to the student, because there are certainly opportunities to sit in a classroom and learn about things. But the distinction is having that certification by a professional industry association.
Allison Bolton asked if we can all receive a copy of the PDF for this presentation, but I'm not sure if she's referring to the PowerPoint or Allison.
Both. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
Well, we plan to give the presentation. There's the recording of the Zoom, so you'll get to hear all of our my stammering and stuttering and things also. So you get to
yes,
hear.
That's what I was hoping for. Sorry, I realized I wrote PDF when it should have been PowerPoint. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, we're planning to send that out to everyone who's here.
Okay, just some repetitive questions, sorry.
Leslie, I think we want to maybe touch on the question was asked about curriculum availability. And so can you expand on that a little bit? I think we had talked about faculty who complete the training and the certifications and their availability of the curriculum to them.
Oh, they will have it. I mean, it's right there in the LMS. It's available in the PDF. We also provide for all of our schools any kind of assignments that we receive from other programs, any case studies, any kind of resources that we have from the many schools that are already in our program. There are PowerPoints that were developed that help an instructor guide their way through the program if it's a facilitated delivery format. So we love to share everything we have. We don't hold back with anything. So if we have it, have it.
So Leslie, this is a pretty much a turnkey program for faculty, correct?
I promised I wouldn't call it supply chain management in a box, but I have to use that word now because that's what it is. It's there. Everything is there. I wouldn't say everything. You know, you still, if you're making a class, you want it to be interesting and you want to bring in your own world experiences and your work experiences. So you want to add that case study or you want to add that discussion about something that's really important that you think that will help students get excited about this, because the whole idea was to get students excited about a career in supply chain management. It's not something they hear on television or even from friends, but it's such an outstanding career path for people that we feel like it's been a best kept secret and we want to make it fun and interesting to them. And like Tuli mentioned, now the pandemic certainly helped along those lines, but we all would have foregone that and done the hard work if we had.
And so the value proposition to our faculty and administrators who are on this call is that Broward has done all the hard work for us already. And as long as our faculty in California are willing to take the training and be certified, the rest is done. Broward has done the hard work for us.
We did it with our partners. I would love to take all the credit, but we didn't do all of it. But yes, it was a big effort and it is there and we would love to share it with you. And I think you would find it as rewarding as our program has. Are we covering the cost? So that was, we already saw that one, Joel, right?
Leslie,
Yeah.
do you want to mention the average time it takes to go through one track?
Yeah, I think 25 hours for a faculty member, assuming that they have no real supply chain work experience or knowledge going in. Say somebody from a business department or some related, a different general studies. I think it's very doable in 25 hours. And that's, you know, with reading the material and studying it. I'd really like to know, this would be an interesting thing to have folks kind of self-report on to see if I'm correct on that for people that are already in academia, because it might be less or might be more. I'd be really interested to know that. But I would say that per track, it's very doable in a matter of a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks to go through and then take the exam. That's why we had been sort of targeting one track per month and then having plenty of time to get through the 2 that are the core part of the program and electives as needed within the time frame that Jaime mentioned for the grant.
Let's answer one quick question for Elizabeth Shapiro. So Elizabeth, yes, you're correct that you do have to go through an approval process in California for new courses. There are currently 2 colleges in California who are already partnered with Broward, and there might be CORs that are already available that you could potentially put through your own curriculum approval process, either to district or your own college. So that is information we can also provide you.
That's great, yes.
Is that Long Beach City College, Jaime? What are those colleges?
Janet, I think one of them was Southwest College and it might be Long Beach. I know there's 2 or 3 colleges who are already partnered. And so again, if the CORs have already been approved through the Chancellor's office, then it may be a matter of taking the COR, modifying it to meet your own needs at the college and putting it through your local process.
So I'm at Southwestern, and we do have one. Yeah, we have one course that's aligned, I believe, with the very first. But I was wondering if for the other modules, if anyone's got it in curriculum. That's all. Because that's where that's a lot of work to take something like that and translate it out into curriculum the way it's supposed to be is a tremendous amount of work.
Right, and I think what we can do is, since this is turned into a statewide effort now with with Janet Malig and our statewide director, I think we can look and see what's existing, and rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, just trying to mirror what some of the other colleges in California have already done. I mean, there's 114 of us in California. I mean, there's got to be some curriculum, some CORs already available that would hopefully allow you just to modify and integrate into your existing program. But we can research that.
Okay, thank you.
Erin, I see that you put the link on there. That is to our academic program. You must have Googled Broward College and our
Right. I was just trying to share with my colleagues how you have laid out the attainment of all of the 8 certificates in your AA.
Right. That is our program.
And does Broward have a concept of a course outline of record for each of those courses that we could have access to?
That's kind of a Thule question. I think we do.
Yeah, it's actually it's in our course map. If you go to our main page, and I'd be glad to share the link with you in a second. And you pick and you choose IMCT, the IMCT pathway from the main page, and then click on supply chain management. It shows you all of the our map.
That's the link that Erin found. Yeah, she's got that. So you know what, we can take a note on this, Erin, and get back with you so that we send you exactly what it is that you're looking for.
I'd be glad
right. So to Elizabeth's point, to try and integrate the content into either an existing course or create a new course requires some effort. So if there's a model for how it's been done at another college, we'd benefit from seeing it.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely talk with our dean. Thule, we can talk with Russ about that. I think that he'll be helpful in that effort also.
Let me
And any additional questions that the group may have, please feel free to either email Leslie or myself or Janet.
Absolutely.
And this is an open-ended conversation. We want to keep the conversation going, and we really want this to work for our California community colleges. I mean, there's a huge need for supply chain, just based on some of the data that we've researched. There's a huge gap in what the colleges are supplying for supply chain professionals. So although there is a huge discrepancy in what we're providing, I see that as a huge opportunity for our colleges to integrate, develop, and be creative with our programs.
This is a great opportunity, Jaime, definitely. How do we sign up for the first class?
Leslie?
We will send you a link, Erin. But not today. Usually we're pretty quick, but we're probably not going to get that done this afternoon. But no, we'd love to have you start. Do we have other questions? I'm kind of scrolling through the questions, and I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost track. That keeps scrolling on me, so I think we should maybe take them by audio. Sorry about that.
This
I
is Jan.
just shared our program map, just in case that's the one that you're looking for. If that clarifies things for you, I just shared the link to our program map for supply chain management for the associates program.
And Janet, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I just want to say for the faculty, first, thanks for coming or joining us with this. And I see like there's a faculty who are across disciplines, and I see something from Evergreen Valley. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to think about related to this. It's one, is there opportunity in the courses that you have where you could integrate this? And because we realize it's difficult, right? To think you're going to develop something totally brand new related to that. And the fact that supply chain management in our world, it doesn't matter what sector you're in. The fact that you're going to have to work through customer service. You're going to have to demand plan. You're going to have to think about warehousing and everything related to that. So I'm hoping that if you have a course that's in there, that you can, first of all, add this to what you've got into your curriculum. And, you know, I will say that when we spent some time looking at this certification, I actually had done it the opposite. I went directly to CSCMP to see what was available. And through my conversations with CSCMP is how I ended up getting to Broward. And I mean, I'm excited to see that, you know, Southwestern College started this already. This is a great opportunity for us in California to really look at that as we are, you know, we're on this side of the world, and there's a significant amount of things that come through our ports, no matter whether it's a raw material, you know, fresh goods, whatever it may be. And then if you are really considering developing a program, this is where, yes, Broward could potentially help us. And I think if you guys are really interested in it, we could potentially develop a group and look at what this really means for us. Because in our world, yes, it can fall in manufacturing, it can fall under business. There's only, I think in California, there's probably only 4 or 5 schools that use the top code for logistics. So I just want to make sure you guys know that. And I mean, we're here to help you whatever we can. And don't hesitate to reach out to Jaime or myself. And I will also reach out to other colleges, because I know there are a few colleges that actually have partnerships that their companies really like CSCMP, and they send all employees that come to their organization to take at least this fundamentals course that's available. So I'll reach out and see what we have and see how they've connected with the colleges that are close to them. And, you know, don't be surprised if you get all these emails or something's posted on the ATL website, and we'll let you know. So don't hesitate to keep asking us, because, you know, this is something new for us, not new, but to develop something specifically for supply chain management in the world of the real world, in the way that we see it as businesses label it, I guess, is what you want to say.
Great. Thank you, Janet.
And so the question was asked, can our host please make it possible to copy or save the chat? So yeah, Joelle or Leslie, we can copy the chat for the links. And again, this is an open-ended conversation, so please, any questions that may arise, send them to us and we'll do our best to answer them and get back to you. This was an information session to prepare everyone for the training that is coming. So again, with the official training starting in January, unless for those of you like Erin who are anxious to get started. Yeah, we just really wanted to put this out there so that you can go back to your administrators or some of your contacts to let them know what the opportunity that we're offering.
Right. So the one thing that we wanted to leave everyone with is, you know, where do we go from here? What are the next steps? And since this was such a broad and really diverse group, we thought that it might be an idea to send a survey out after we conclude. So probably this afternoon, you'll get a survey. And I don't mean one of those long surveys that you have to tell us how you felt about something and all that kind of stuff. This is just to see what you would like to do. Would you like to sign up now? Would you like to do this in January? Would you not like to participate? Whatever, just because it's impossible to take questions and answers from everyone on that while we're in this meeting, and to avoid having multiple emails and things. So I promise you, you can complete the survey in less than 2 minutes, but it's just to give you an opportunity to let us know what your interest level is, and any comments or any kind of questions or comments or critique you have is always welcome. But you can expect that. And as Jaime mentioned earlier, we will also make available this Zoom recording and the PowerPoint that we use to go through the program. And like I said, anything else we have is yours. We frequently give people whole folders full of information, and we're happy to do it. So we really appreciate your time today. Everybody's been wonderful. I've just been amazed at the participation from all of the different areas within the huge, great state of California. It's pretty awesome. We have, what do we have? 60 something, 67 colleges. And to think that you have 114, 115 is pretty amazing. So yes, I did copy the chat for the links. Jaime, I have it, and I'll get that And any links that, for whatever reason, if you need a link to something, we'll be happy to put that out